The book sitting on my desk right now might just be the most important read of the year for any man who finds himself making decisions under pressure. And let's be honest, that's all of us. James Ashford's The Pressure Advantage isn't your run-of-the-mill self-help guide packed with comforting cliches or recycled tips. It's a hands-on manual for navigating high-stakes moments. And after spending the past week deep diving into its 9 chapters, I can see why it's making waves in leadership circles. Let me start with what truly surprised me. In Chapter 1, Ashford lays out the science behind what actually happens in our brains when we're under pressure. Did you know that when cortisol floods your system, your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles logical thinking, literally starts shutting down? Your brain flips back to its ancient fight-or-flight mode, which might have helped our ancestors escape predators, but now just leads us to fire off that angry email or freeze up during crucial presentations. But here's where Ashford stands apart from every other stress management book I've read. He doesn't tell you to avoid pressure. Instead, he teaches you how to harness it. He shares this gripping story about a CEO facing a hostile takeover who used specific breathing techniques to reactivate his prefrontal cortex right in the middle of negotiations. The guy went from nearly losing his company to orchestrating one of the most successful mergers in his industry. Chapter 2, which dives into emotional intelligence, completely changed how I think about leadership. Ashford insists that emotional intelligence isn't about being soft or overly sensitive. It's about having pinpoint control over your emotional responses. He introduces the concept of emotional regulation, where you acknowledge your feelings without letting them steer your decisions. There's an exercise where you identify your emotional triggers and create what he calls a pause protocol. I tried it last week during a heated meeting, and instead of my usual knee-jerk reaction, I managed to step back, assess, and respond strategically. The shift in the room was immediate. Chapter 3 is all about critical thinking under stress, and honestly, it should be required reading for anyone in management. Ashford offers a framework for breaking down big decisions into manageable pieces, even when your heart's pounding and deadlines are looming. He recounts a story about a military commander who had just seconds to make a life-or-death call, and how his training and systematic thinking saved his entire unit. Whether you're in combat or the boardroom, the same principles apply. What really makes this book stand out is Chapter 5, where Ashford doesn't just theorize. He shows you exactly how high performers handle pressure through real-life case studies. One section follows an athlete who visualized every possible scenario before the biggest game of his career. When things went sideways during the actual game, his mind had already rehearsed the response. He didn't just survive the pressure, he thrived in it. The chapter on relationship dynamics was unexpectedly impactful. Most leadership books ignore the fact that our toughest decisions often involve those closest to us. Ashford addresses how to handle difficult conversations with spouses, family, and close colleagues without letting emotions derail everything. His approach to empathetic communication while still maintaining boundaries is something I wish I'd learned 2 decades ago. Then there's the technology integration in Chapter 7. In a world drowning in data and digital tools, Ashford lays out a framework for when to trust algorithms and when to trust your gut. He doesn't dismiss technology. Instead, he shows you how to use AI and analytics as tools to enhance your judgment, not replace it. There's a brilliant case study about an entrepreneur who nearly lost everything by over-relying on data, then rebuilt his business by finding the sweet spot between tech insights and human intuition. Chapter 8's focus on resilience hit home for me. Ashford reframes failure not as something to fear, but as valuable feedback for growth. He introduces the idea of a growth mindset, and while that's not new, the way he applies it specifically to male psychology and the unique pressures men face in leadership feels fresh and relevant. The exercises for building mental toughness aren't just theory. They're practical, daily habits you can start right away. What I appreciate most is Ashford's honesty. He doesn't claim that following his advice will eliminate all stress or guarantee success. Instead, he gives you tools for when things go sideways. The section on learning from setbacks includes a powerful framework for analyzing failures without spiraling into self-doubt, something I've struggled with throughout my own career. The book's greatest strength is also, perhaps, its limitation. It's written specifically for men. While the core principles are universal, Ashford zeroes in on the unique societal pressures and expectations men face in leadership. He talks about the isolation many men feel when making tough calls, the pressure to appear invulnerable, and how these factors shape our decisions. Some might see this focus as narrow, but I found it refreshingly direct and relevant. On the practical side, every chapter ends with actionable exercises. These aren't fluffy journal prompts, they're concrete techniques you can use right away. The breathing exercises for stress, the emotional trigger worksheets, the decision-making frameworks. I've already built several into my daily routine. Ashford's writing style is engaging without dumbing things down. He respects the reader's intelligence while making complex neuroscience and psychology accessible. He uses stories and case studies well, though sometimes I wanted even more detail. The book flows logically, moving from understanding pressure to managing it to ultimately turning it into your edge. If I have any critique, it's that some sections could use more diverse examples. While the CEO and athlete stories are compelling, I'd love to see more from middle managers, small business owners, or men in less traditional leadership roles. Also, the technology chapter might age quickly, given how fast AI and digital tools are evolving. So who should pick up this book? If you're a man in any leadership position, whether you're running a company, leading a team, or just trying to lead your family, this book is packed with invaluable tools. It's especially helpful for those stepping into higher pressure roles, or anyone who freezes or makes poor decisions when the stakes are high. The transformation Ashford promises isn't instant, and he's clear about that. This is a book that demands active participation. You can't just read it and expect change. But if you dig in, practice the techniques, and apply the frameworks, the potential for transformation is huge. After using several of Ashford's strategies this past week, I've noticed a real difference in how I handle stress. Instead of feeling overwhelmed when pressure hits, I now have a toolkit of responses. That angry email I mentioned earlier? It's still in my drafts folder while I apply Ashford's 10-10-10 rule. How will this decision feel in 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years? The pressure advantage isn't just about surviving stress, it's about turning it into your competitive advantage. In a world where everyone faces mounting pressure, those who can harness it, rather than be crushed by it, will come out on top. Ashford gives you the blueprint to become one of those people. My verdict? This is essential reading for any man serious about leadership and personal growth. It's the book I wish I'd had 10 years ago, and one I'll keep coming back to. With its mix of scientific insight, practical strategies, and real-world stories, it stands out in a crowded field of leadership books. If you're tired of regretting decisions made under pressure, want to lead with confidence instead of anxiety, and are ready to turn your biggest weakness into your greatest strength, then The Pressure Advantage deserves a place on your shelf. And more importantly, its lessons deserve a place in your daily life. You can grab the book now on Amazon. There's a link in the description. This isn't just another business book to collect dust. It's an investment in your ability to handle life's toughest moments with clarity and confidence. Remember, pressure isn't going anywhere. The real question is, will you let it break you, or will you make it your advantage? After reading Ashford's book, I know which path I'm taking.